enrich themselves.
No, it's too dangerous.
Thus provoking an international incident, a small war perhaps, to which we can react with moral outrage, uniting the country behind a strong Prime Minister.
But we couldn't control the outcome. We'd risk losing everything.
Better to do that than to slink away. One way or the other, I'll be remembered. This could be our Falklands, Elizabeth.
Our Falklands.
You can see the final part of The Final Cut next Sunday at 9 here on BBC1.
A violent assault.
This guy, the soldier, has actually got a severe cut all the way through his lip.
A domestic incident.
He's grabbed her by the hair and smashed her head off the door frame and then beat her up and then threw her out in the grass.
A home arrest.
So to get something on, because you're under arrest.
What's devastating for some is just another day's work for the Royal Military Police. Redcaps, this Thursday, 10:20 on BBC1. Could the end be nigh for Victor?
It's a gravestone. Yes. You haven't got one already, have you?
Or has he just got one foot in the grave? Wednesday at 9:30 on BBC1.
BBC2 in 5 minutes continues its overview of 4 decades of European football by turning its attention to Germany, one of Europe's most successful footballing nations. Angus Dayton concludes his search for happiness here on BBC Scotland in 15 minutes, perusing the act of worship from football to Buddhism. That's after the day's news from the BBC with Peter Sissons.
America says time's up for the Bosnian peace talks. The State Department gives the Balkan leaders just 18 hours more to choose between peace and war. In Poland's presidential voting, early surveys show Lech Wałęsa and his ex-communist rival neck and neck. And 6 goals, but honours even in a thrilling Glasgow derby. Good evening. The United States has given the factions in Bosnia until 3 o'clock our time tomorrow to either sign a peace deal or explain to the world why they can't. The State Department, which brought the sides together at an airbase in Ohio 19 days ago, says a deal is close, but it could go either way. However, the Croatian President Franjo Tudjman, who's flying back to the talks, says he believes it's for a signing.
The news that President Tudjman was leaving Zagreb for Ohio confirms that the talks are close to ending. He's always said he would return for the conclusion and assumed that the summons indicates success. He asked reporters, "Why else would they call me back? I expect discussions to be finished tomorrow and an agreement to be initialed then."
Free Kosovo! Free Kosovo! Free Kosovo!
The smell of a settlement at Dayton has brought demonstrators to the base gates. Albanians protesting that Kosovo should be included in the peace plan. But US officials say that the talks, which went on until 3 in the morning, still haven't produced agreement.
I expect that today will be the climactic day of these negotiations. We're at the 19th day. There is no reason for these negotiations to proceed a lot longer than today. I think the parties know this. They know that they're down to the essential choices that must be made, and we believe that they will work very hard today towards their objective of a peace agreement. What I cannot promise you, however, is that these negotiations are going to succeed.
Leaks from the talks suggest that the Bosnian government is refusing to give up territory in the Posavina corridor, which is needed to link Serb areas.
I can tell you that Serbia, Croatia, and Bosnia, their leaders here, are working with great determination, very seriously. They clearly want to achieve here a comprehensive peace agreement. I can also tell you that significant and important differences remain among these three countries on the most important issues that are at the core of these peace talks.
The television companies are setting up to report the end of the negotiations. US officials say that tomorrow afternoon there'll either be a ceremony to initial an agreement or an announcement that the talks have failed. Brian Hanrahan, BBC News, Dayton, Ohio.
And Brian Hanrahan joins us now. Brian, why are the Americans in such a hurry?
Well, I think they say that left to themselves, these people will just talk forever. They know what the pros and cons are. They know what the decisions are. There's nothing more to be negotiated. A choice has to be made. It may as well be made now. There's also, I think, an element that the Americans are over-egging things a little. I'm told by some diplomatic sources that there is actually a small gap, not a big gap, and that they think that a little muscle can settle that by tomorrow. But a small gap to an outside diplomat can, of course, be a sticking point to anybody who's fighting on the ground.
And although Tudjman says he's coming to sign, Begovic says no compromise on this key issue of the Serb land corridor. Could that still be the rock on which it founders?
That's what it looks like. President Izetbegovic is reported by Sarajevo television as saying he won't give up territory up there. That's what the war has been strategically very much about. The Muslims want to break that corridor that links the Serb lands. The Serbs want it widened to make them viable. It doesn't matter if there's peace. It does matter if there's war. It's a question of the mentality with which they approach it.
Brian Hanrahan, thank you. At least 15 people have been killed in a suicide bomb attack on the Egyptian embassy in Pakistan. Around 60 others were injured. President Mubarak of Egypt has condemned the bombing as an evil crime. Responsibility for the attack in the Pakistani capital Islamabad has been claimed by different groups of Islamic fundamentalists who are opposed to the Egyptian government.
The devastating blast was seemingly the work of a suicide bomber. Eyewitnesses say a vehicle packed with explosives blew up just inside the embassy compound. A huge crater bore witness to the size of the bomb. Much of the embassy was destroyed. It was mid-morning. Dozens of local staff, visitors, and Egyptian diplomats were inside. Rescuers worked desperately to free people from the rubble. Casualties were rushed away in makeshift stretchers. Pakistan's Interior Minister condemned this act of terrorism. He promised a full investigation. Last June, the Egyptian president was almost assassinated by a militant Islamic group trying to overthrow the Cairo government. The same group said it was behind this blast. The militants seem determined to pursue their violent campaign far beyond Egypt's borders. Pakistan is still a relatively easy place for militant groups to operate in. Weapons and explosives are easy to acquire, partly as a result of the West's funding and arming of Mujahideen fighters a decade ago. Many of the weapons supposed to be for the war against the Soviet army in Afghanistan now circulate in Pakistan. And there are still a small number of Arab militants, including Egyptians, in the guerrilla groups which have training camps in the remote hills of northern Pakistan. The links between Pakistani fundamentalists and Islamic militants from the Arab world are sure to come under close scrutiny as Pakistani and Egyptian investigators begin their work. Stephen Sacker, BBC News in the Middle East.
Here, the Shadow Chancellor, Gordon Brown, has been giving details of Labour's plans to cut the bottom rate of tax to 10p in the pound. He said the scheme would improve work incentives for millions of people on low incomes. But the Conservative